Hello and welcome everyone on the topic of eazyBI scalability. I hope that the sound is going on Zoom as well. So my name is Daina and I'm in eazyBI for 6 years now and recently upgraded my support level to development, as I strongly believe that making product better is the way how I can support our customers the best. So let's look on a day in eazyBI Cloud that is the largest of eazyBI instances in the world. And daily we are running 50,000 imports and around 120,000 executions, and this is growing and growing. And how we are doing this? There are thousands of sites and accounts in eazyBI Cloud running reports and imports every single day. And the way and the account concept that there are many accounts is the way how we're doing this, because eazyBI is designed to run in multi-account environment. And therefore, one of the ways, one of the best options how you can deal with scalability is splitting accounts in smaller accounts and working with smaller accounts. And here is agenda for today. I will quickly go in on, so you actually should measure things. And then I will dive deeper what is account concept in eazyBI and some more practical things on tuning things up. We as a company strongly believe in working with facts rather than guesses. And many of changes we did in eazyBI is especially connected with performance is based on measuring. We are doing profilings for imports for several years now, and many changes come from the profiling of imports and working on particular bottlenecks. And the same goes for reports. We also do profiling for reports if they are sent by customers from server data center, or we're checking some slow running reports on cloud and do profiling, and this is basis for our updates. And here is, we also ourselves are using eazyBI for our internal purposes. This is one of our team reports. And funny thing is that we suggest to measure, don't guess. However, support team reports are the latest ones to implement for ourselves. And because the first was sales, then was development, and then at some point get that I need to understand why there are some spikes in our charts, and then we created some reports. And for example, this one is the one where we took one particular activity and just noticed that valuable outcome of it was not so big that we could stop doing some things or change the way how we are doing. So we ourselves measuring how we are doing it and changing as we go. And the good thing is about that is that the team come together, the particular individuals come together and say, let's try and look at it. And if it was not asked by Raymond by any means, it was implemented that we wanted to understand by ourselves. And it was allowed because we can create this account for ourselves. We do this measuring and go on based on this. And while for internally, anything we are using for internal purposes and how we are doing, we are using on separate accounts. Sales is one account, development is other, support is on separate account. We have one account. It's actually usage statistics on cloud. It's a funny fact you can check while I'm talking. But the thing about this usage statistic account is everyone, or many of us are using this account to analyze the performance in clouds, for reports, for imports, to check some facts, how eazyBI is used. And this creates some kind of mess over the years, while ourselves, we are trying to be mindful not to create too many reports, not to create too many measures, but they are still actually, if there are many users and with skills and options to create reports and measures, we ourselves also created some mess and some cleanup is overdue there in our account as well. And therefore, we are strong advocates for this reason as well, that team accounts or smaller accounts will be better, because it always goes with smaller data set. And I will also, what I would like to tell is that it also goes with a better ownership. That team will have more ownership of data, of the account, what they are doing there, more freedom, maybe rules could be used, but it will be not strict. However, on larger data, on larger or general accounts where many users, it should be more strict how you are using to not create mess, to get a valid data. And sometimes, or in many cases, you might need more expertise to create a good working report there because of scale of data, scale of measures, details, or whatever you have it there. So let's talk about accounts, and it applies both for larger or smaller accounts. And I had one case, and I said to a client, you would like to create an account, and as a client create account for every user. It's not the case, because sometimes account and user account could be missed. In this case, we are talking about account. And let's see what accounts entails. It has a set of data, it has a set of reports or measures, and users. So for accounts, there is a scope, what you are importing in terms of projects, or for example, some limitations by GQL query. Then details, what you are importing for those data. Custom fields, cycles, apps, or whatever you would like to see. And then I would like to stress out that there is an option to extend the data model. And maybe it's a more advanced part, but it could be used and for your benefit. Additional data import goes for, is account specific. It's not general, it's account specific, and you can use to add more details to users, projects, sprints, or some custom fields. Custom hierarchies are highly suggested way how you can go to extend the data model and make it more flexible. And in some cases, it relates on additional data import, so that you can import some additional details for fields and then build custom hierarchies on top of that. Or you can use default values, for example, for time for project. Then Ramon's already shared the news that we will have an option to build new custom fields in accounts. And there currently is some option, but it will be extended even more to override the field behavior, generally defined field behavior in the account. So that currently you can define field or you define field in either in advanced settings or use from Jira, and then you can use JavaScript code to change the, I don't know, values or how it behaves, especially if it could be for custom field JavaScripts built for general purposes. You can, for example, adjust them for account specific needs. And with the new updates, it will be even more that you can change the behavior of Jira fields as well, using a different data type, different import options. So for reports, eazyBI has I think, quite a massive extent to a default set of measures and samples. We do not have many samples as we have additional demo account for more examples, just for that you are not overwhelmed with how much we can do, and therefore we try to give you samples, but an option to import more and more examples from our demo account and use it for your benefits. And this gives quite a head start for building new reports based on either examples or using those measures for your report building blocks. Then template accounts are highly suggested, especially for larger instances. When creating many team accounts that could be similar, they maybe should be similar at some point. And the template accounts, if they are built within the company and then shared across, could be a huge benefit. And if teams would like to come on board with that setup, it already gives a good way how they can put new perspective on the data and see some details where you would like to understand why it's happening there and what can I change and work with this. And of course, there is an option to extend the metrics. And here is the suggested way how I would suggest to start, that you always should start with report-specific measures. There are two reasons why. One is that it will not mess up anything else. It will be just locally. And because far too many measures could overwhelm everyone and you don't need it. And another reason is maybe more important, that using report-specific measures, especially during development process of reports, it will speed up your development. Because when you are saving shared measures, it will impact eazyBI, it will reach out to database, store it, validate it, do every checks, and so you don't need it, especially during the development. Therefore, report-specific measures are stored on the report at the moment when you are working them, without any impact on eazyBI itself. And when those report-specific measures are up and running and proved to be value to the team, to one report, maybe then you can share it with other team members and create as shared user measures. And at that point, if maybe even earlier, you would like to consider naming patterns, because naming your measures and maybe keeping consistent naming patterns within the company could be quite beneficial. We ourselves has a specific naming patterns, and we just by seeing a measure know what it could be, even if it's based on custom fields, because the naming pattern places where and how it could be used. And when those shared measures prove to be working for one team, then it's a point when you can consider if they could be shared with your colleagues and other teams and shared within template reports. Of course, you can go other way around as well, but this would be the suggested how we would share. And Ilse today will share more details on how to go from smaller metrics or simpler metrics to more complex ones. Yeah.
So you said you can share those user-defined measures. Is that within the account or is it across multiple accounts?
User shared measures are within one account.
So is there a way to replicate them from one account to another account?
It's via template accounts. And if you place a measure in a template account, you would like to put it in a report as well, because we share reports from template accounts via reports.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have a number of rows or number of issues is a sweet spot for setting up an account?
So question about number of issues, no, we don't in the account, because it could actually, even when we say a small account, for example, 1,000 issues is a very small account. But if you import many details, if you build reports with some complexity, it also it will not likely run into performance issues, but you can make it so even with small number of issues. But keep it small, and the more you have and the more details you have, especially change history, work logs, impacts a data amount quite a lot. So, and the last but not least thing of the account is users, and it will depend a lot if it's general account and what the users can do, and small team account. And just be aware that the roles are different ones, and the larger account, you always would like to know to have that there are not too many people who could create, especially shared measures, shared details, and mess up with data. And therefore, if you create smaller accounts, then most probably the team a member could create some reports for their use. Within one general account, it would not be so likely, so that they would want to experiment and do something. So if you would like to give the flexibility to your teams, the smaller account concept also will benefit it. So let's go to the way how you can manage those accounts. So one of the, if there are many accounts, especially in larger instances or Jira sites, you would like to make some routines on how you are managing, of course. And one of the options is, we also created it based on some large customer requests, is all account view, and it gives an option to see all the accounts searched by particular type, by name, by source, by errors, and it also gives an overview. For example, especially you can see the size of the account and how many reports it might have. It could indicate if there are some problems, could be, and the import frequency also could be quite informative. So we did change recently so that user statistics is available not only on server but on cloud as well. And I also mentioned that we have this update that if you enable template accounts, you can find them here as well in the all account screen. And when managing accounts, there could, at some point, could be quite a lot of them, especially if the larger the instance, the larger amount of accounts there could be. Then just a simple report that where you are monitoring imports and reports that they are executing, because imports will execute always. Typically, they are scheduled and just execute on the background. And if you put it right side to report executions and monitor over the time, is this account still used? Because imports might run and take memory of your server, but reports are not executed there. Then this is waste of memory spent on imports, and maybe you can consider deleting or asking the account owner is the account still should be used. So for report optimization, we always suggest that it's repeatable process, and we suggest to use user statistics, and Yanis in the next presentation will share more details on how to use user statistics for benefit to detect slow running reports. And then we have these best practices on how to create them. I updated it just recently because I needed to put this, because we changed, for example, non-empty option and non-empty option and multiple page options, and I updated those parts there so that its best practice is always up to date with recent updates in eazyBI. And then the profiling, and especially the new function about profiling, was working. And here is a short version of how to use the profiling. on-site audience already explained it, but let's recap. So here is an example with several measures, and I would like to detect which one is one of the measures that could be slow or slows down the report. And I would like to just profile not only visible measures, but also measures that are working behind the schemes, as we say, and filters as well. And here is the function profiling. You put your name and your formula around your formula. And here how it looks for predicted completion line. And I did the similar steps for several measures. For those that are visible in the report, and for background measures like version report start date. And here is the results. I stressed out all the measures I'm using for this report I wanted to measure. And here is the total time, and majority of this time is spent on version report start date. And it takes quite a lot of, and then this is the measure you would like to check if there could be some optimizations for this measure. And as you noticed, once again, that the total execution time is a bit more than the measure, because it's not summing up all those activities. They are overlapping, and therefore the total sum of all the measures is not creating the total time, because they are using one another. So this is for individual report profiling and working on performance. And now let's look on some basic changes you can do for overall setup of report execution. So for server and data center, if you are not on child process enabled, then it's the first step you should do. And I think most of here already did that point. Then the next thing is you would like to designate specific resources, memory, and please make sure you have enough physical memory, because memory couldn't go over, it could just end, and that's all. And increase, it's more like incremental increase if necessary. Put some initial resources. If it's not working well, add more resources. And query timeout is quite very related on memory. If you have enough memory, then you can add query timeout. If you do not have memory, then you can add query timeout, but some reports will end with memory problems. Therefore, they are very tightly connected, memory and query timeout. And make small increase, don't go very long query timeouts. It will just hide your problematic reports. Therefore, I started with report performance as the first step, and only then going to this slide when saying that, yeah, you can increase query timeout. And you also can update and run your queries or report executions in more parallel threads, but make sure that in this place, Jira CPU capacity will be more affected than memory. Then next is imports, because in many cases, reports typically, as I mentioned, first point on reports run in child process. The reports running on child process in most probably will have quite a minimal impact on Jira. However, imports will import Jira directly. And many accounts may create more impact on Jira because there are many, and just each of them will request data. And therefore, frequency, how often you are importing data, is crucial there. And so on server or data center, you can set up to 10 minutes, but, and remember that imports are running automatically, they are scheduled, and they will run, you are using the new data or not using new data. So consider it wisely. Do you really need very often, frequently? Sorry. And on server and data center, you can also, we have an option to set the minimal frequency, so that if the team members would like to set up to 10 minutes and everyone is doing that, maybe you can set a general setting that they can go lower than 1 hour, for example. And it could be important, especially for large instances, when every team is managing their own accounts. However, maybe it's good to allow them run manual imports during the day if they need to update the new data. It's also important because if they need the data, they would like to have it on fresh. And then you can also set when those imports could run, either, for example, regular imports outside the Jira working hour, and manual imports are allowed, for example. It could be different setups. However, this setting is general. It will apply to all accounts. The minimal import frequency could be overridden for specific accounts where it's actually needed, the more frequent reports. And then eazyBI runs reports on only one queues, only one import at a time, and you can make it as a parallel imports, but you make sure that it will import Jira, and CPU capacity of Jira is imported here. We also have an option to enable profiling. However, you can enable if it's needed. For example, if you have some performance problems, and we suggest to, if you have performance problems with imports, you can enable profiling, and then the log files with already profiling data to us, it will give us more information on how to act on it. Otherwise, we might ask you on a separate thread, send this anyway, so you can do it beforehand. So, and here is, as you can say, scalability action plan to wrapping it up. So the first thing we would suggest to plan your accounts and consider those smaller team accounts. And of course, you need general accounts more so that you can all see many projects on the same page as well. And then measure, don't guess. And not only building reports, but also when planning and checking what are you doing. Profiling, usage statistic, and repeat. Profiling, usage statistic, improve, repeat. And we suggest to just go by measuring it, not just guessing. I don't like how long this report runs. You can measure it. And then scale if necessary and when necessary. And remember that both memory and CPU could be used and for different settings. So, do you have any questions? Yeah.
On one slide, you mentioned child process for memory. You said increase when necessary. When will we know when we should increase memory for child process?
When to increase memory for child process, if you see memory out. but maybe you would like to have it before. But because if you see memory out, it's a very bad sign actually already, because a shortage of memory will mess up more things than when adding to increase. But yeah.
Probably the range would be so by default we start with 1 year, but then for larger instances you would give some many up to some 10 gigabytes maybe. So on our cloud, we have many servers, each having some 100 gigabytes of memory. So that's, yeah, so the probably, yeah, if you want to tune, you need to monitor.
See what usage.
Yeah, monitor usage and upgrade if necessary.
Measure, don't guess.
Measure, don't guess, yeah. Yeah.
Is there a way to tell within eazyBI what percentage of the like memory is being used by people running reports versus imports?
So there is about imports, it's impacting Jira
Yeah.
memory.
Yeah.
So you will see in total Jira memory information in administration, but it will not show how many it's used by easy import. But it still should not be quite a lot. So because we are trying to minimize impact on Jira memory. But about child process, it will be visible in troubleshooting page.
Right.
There is visible information about child process, how much memory is allocated, how still free. And also in the next version, there will be improvement for data center. You will be able to see in one place information about all dedicated nodes, not only the particular.
Right, yeah. Because right now we still allow about one every hour, we allow one import, and we don't see any slowdown, but we're getting requests to have more imports during the daytime, and we didn't want to impact the users that were running reports.
So yeah, I will talk about this, but also next. But so that import frequently is quite crucial because it will clean up report cache. So it means that after each import, first the report execution will be slower, while the information is loaded back into cache. So if you import every 10 minutes, then every 10 minutes report execution will be slower.
Yeah.
You can start Jan's presentation already.
Yeah, and I would also say that you in usage services you can monitor duration, overall duration of imports and of reports as well. So an import execution, especially step, it also allows to monitor step duration, what kind of import steps, and also an increase in import. Oh, Jan, and welcome Janis so that he can show how to monitor this.